You know that feeling? That amazing one when you're just totally ecstatic and you wish it could just go on forever.
Oh, absolutely. Or the flip side, right?
Exactly. That like pit in your stomach or the anger, the sadness, the stuff you just want gone instantly.
Yeah. And we're sort of wired, aren't we, to split them up? These are the good ones, keep them. These are bad, avoid, avoid, avoid.
It's exhausting. It feels like this constant battle.
It really is. The source we're looking at today
Mhm.
compares it to trying to fly with just one wing.
Yeah.
You're flapping around, but you're not really getting anywhere stable, just kind of flailing.
That's such a great image. And yeah, that's exactly what we're diving into. We're looking at a really interesting piece called Emotional Alchemy, Transmuting Pain into Power.
And it just flips that whole good versus bad idea on its head.
Hmm.
It suggests that all those feelings, even the really uncomfortable ones, they aren't problems.
Not problems.
Yeah.
So what are they then?
Well, the material frames them as signals, really important signals, maybe even sources of power if you learn how to work with them.
Okay, signals and power. So our mission today for this deep dive is to unpack that. How can we see all our emotions not as like random attacks, but as information?
As energy.
Exactly. It's about becoming, well, the source calls it an alchemist of your own feelings, learning to transform that lead, those heavy emotions, into gold.
I like that. An alchemist. Okay, so where do we start? What's the first big shift in thinking here?
The absolute foundation is moving away from seeing emotions as these, wild beasts we need to tame,
Right.
and instead seeing them simply as signals, information.
Okay, signals. But signals of what? What's the message?
Fundamentally, they signal perceived imbalance. That's the core idea.
Imbalance. How so?
Well, think about it. When you feel really good joy, excitement, you're typically seeing a situation with tons of benefits and like almost no downsides, right?
Yeah, usually.
The source says it's like you're seeing the bright sunshine, but you're maybe conveniently ignoring the shadows that are always part of the picture. Okay, makes sense for the good stuff. What about the pain, the anger, the fear, the ones we try to dodge?
That's when you're perceiving the opposite. You're seeing overwhelming drawbacks, loads of negatives, and very few, if any, benefits.
You only see the storm clouds.
Exactly. You're completely forgetting that the clear sky is still up there, just hidden for a moment.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting for me because the material brings in Dr. DeMartini's work, specifically the universal law of opposites. How does that fit with emotions?
Ah, yes. That's a key piece. This law basically says everything exists in balance. For every up, there's a down. For every force, an equal and opposite one. It's a fundamental principle.
And applied to our feelings.
It means every emotion inherently contains its opposite, or at least the potential for it. They're two sides of the same coin, even if we only feel one side intensely at a time.
So if you've known really deep sorrow,
Then your capacity for experiencing profound joy is equally vast. If you feel fierce anger, there's a corresponding intensity of passion or drive available there. And the more intense the fear you face.
the greater the potential for courage.
Wow,
Yeah.
exactly. It reframes everything.
So feeling overwhelmed by sadness or pain, it doesn't mean I'm broken or something's wrong with me fundamentally.
According to this perspective, no. It's not that you are broken. It's more that your perception is temporarily lopsided. You're only seeing half the equation.
Okay.
That discomfort, that pain, it's actually a signal, a nudge from the universe or your own system saying, hey, you're only looking at this side. There's something else here. It's pushing you to find the missing piece.
The hidden benefit, the lesson, the other side.
Precisely, the side you're currently blind to.
Okay, so if there are signals pointing to a balance we're missing, how do we, actually use them, not just react? This must be the alchemy part.
That's exactly it. Emotional alchemy, as this material presents it, is the conscious act, the art, really, of taking that raw energy, especially from uncomfortable feelings, and deliberately transmuting it.
Turning it into something else, something useful.
Useful, powerful, something that fuels your growth, helps you move forward instead of getting stuck.
Now, it's really important, isn't it, to be clear, this isn't about just bottling it up, suppressing it.
Oh, absolutely critical. The source is very firm on this. Suppression is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Yeah, it always pops up eventually, usually when you least expect it.
Exactly. It festers. Alchemy isn't denial. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's about full engagement.
Facing the feeling head on, like the source says, using the hottest fire to turn lead into gold.
Perfectly put. It's about embracing the feeling, allowing yourself to feel its energy, but then getting curious, understanding its message, and actively consciously looking for the hidden purpose or the benefit tucked away inside the situation that sparked it.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Anger. That's a big one for a lot of people. How does alchemy approach anger instead of just, exploding and swallowing it?
Right. So when that heat flares up, the alchemical practice is to pause. Don't just react. Instead, ask some specific questions, like the ones the source suggests.
Like what?
Questions like, okay, what boundary feels like it's just been crossed here? Or what core value of mine feels violated right now? Also, what action is this energy actually pushing me towards? And is there a part of me that feels completely unheard or disrespected?
So you're using the anger almost like a diagnostic tool.
Yes, exactly. A flashlight, like you said earlier, you're asking it, what are you trying to show me? What's important here?
And once you get that information,
That energy, that intensity can be
Right.
channeled, transmuted into fuel. Fuel for maybe having an assertive conversation, setting a really clear boundary, or even, championing a cause that lights you up.
okay. What about sadness? That heavy feeling people often try to escape through distraction or numbing?
With sadness, the alchemical questions shift. They focus more on loss, release, and potential space. You'd ask things like, what have I actually lost here? What am I truly letting go of? Maybe releasing this. What new space might be opening up even if I can't see it yet? And crucially, what is this sadness, this ache, teaching me about what I deeply value?
So sitting with it, honoring it instead of fighting it.
It can paradoxically deepen your empathy for yourself and others. It connects you to vulnerability, which isn't weakness, but actually a source of connection and strength. And it can eventually clear the way for new things when the time is right, like clearing old leaves to make way for spring growth.
Right. Okay, one more fear, the one that makes us want to freeze up or just run away. How does alchemy tackle fear?
Fear is a primal signal, often about protection. So instead of letting it paralyze you or send you fleeing, the practice is, again, curiosity. Ask, what am I trying to protect right now? What's really at stake? Also, is there an opportunity for courage here that fear is highlighting? And what preparation is this fear urging me towards?
Okay, those make sense. Preparing, finding courage.
But then there's a deeper one. What's the absolute worst-case scenario I'm imagining? And then the real alchemical twist. Can I find even one potential hidden benefit if that worst thing actually happened?
Wow, finding a benefit in the worst case scenario. That requires some serious perspective shifting.
It really does. That's the alchemy at its peak. It forces your mind to seek balance, even in the most extreme hypothetical. Engaging fear this way, with these questions, it sharpens your instincts, it can ignite bravery you didn't know you possessed, and it often pushes you towards growth that only happens outside your comfort zone.
So whether it's anger, sadness, fear, the message seems to be the same, doesn't it? They aren't the enemy.
Not at all. They are messengers, every single one, carrying vital intel about your values, your perceptions, what needs attention, maybe your next steps.
And the key to transforming them to the alchemy is finding that hidden benefit, seeing the other side.
That's the core mechanism described. Actively seeking and identifying an equal or greater benefit within the experience you initially labeled purely negative. That act starts to dissolve the emotional charge.
The pain doesn't necessarily vanish instantly, but its power over you changes.
Exactly. It loses its grip. It transforms from raw, overwhelming pain into insight, into clarity, into usable energy.
Which brings us to this idea of becoming the conductor of your own orchestra rather than being tossed around by the instruments.
Beautifully put. That's the outcome the material points towards. You move from being a puppet of your feelings to being the one who understands them, who guides their energy. The pain transmutes into wisdom, clarity, fuel. You become the master alchemist of your inner world.
And you mentioned the source gives a practical exercise for this, something called the dragon trial or emotional catalyst.
Yes, it offers a concrete way to practice this, to actually do the alchemy.
How does it work? Can you walk us through the steps?
Sure. It's pretty straightforward, actually. First, you identify a specific situation recently where you felt a strong, uncomfortable emotion. Get really clear on the event.
Okay, got it. Pinpoint the trigger and the feeling. Step 2.
Step 2 is to list out all the perceived negatives. Everything about that situation that felt bad, wrong, hurtful, frustrating. Just get it all out. Don't hold back.
Okay, dump out all the perceived drawbacks.
Right. Then step 3, here comes the alchemy. Now you deliberately, consciously search for the hidden benefits, the equal or greater positives that came from that same event or emotion.
This sounds like the hard part.
It can be. You have to dig. Think about lessons learned. Maybe it forced you to develop a new skill. Perhaps it clarified what you don't want, maybe it showed you your own strength, or revealed who your true friends are. Look for the long-term gains, the silver linings, the growth aspects.
So you're actively balancing the scales in your own perception, finding the other side you missed initially.
You got it. You're completing the picture. And finally, step 4 is simply to notice. Notice what happens to your feeling about the original event as you identify these benefits. Does the emotional charge lessen?
Does a memory feel less heavy?
Exactly. Does it shift from being this big, painful thing to just
Yeah.
see an event that happened, one that taught you something?
Yeah.
Observe the change in your internal state.
That sounds like a really practical tool anyone listening can try. A way to start actively working with difficult feelings instead of just being run by them.
It really is. It's designed to help you move from feeling overwhelmed by your inner world to becoming someone who can consciously harness its energy, finding power where you used to only see pain.
So just to recap, we started off talking about how we usually split emotions, good ones to keep, bad ones to ditch.
Yeah, that one-winged flying approach.
Yeah.
And we explored this idea from emotional alchemy, that all emotions are actually signals. Signals pointing towards balance, carrying hidden gifts, lessons, benefits.
Which leads to this practice of emotional alchemy, not suppressing but engaging. Asking questions, seeking the hidden purpose, finding the other side of the coin.
Right, transmuting that raw energy into wisdom, into clarity, into power you can use, using tools like that dragon trial exercise to consciously find the balance in any experience.
Becoming the conductor, the alchemist.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe a final thought for you to consider based on this material. What if those very emotions you spend so much energy trying to avoid, what if they're actually holding the keys?
The keys to your biggest growth, your greatest freedom. What if the real gold is hidden right there inside the fire you've been so afraid of?